Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Customer Success Show. I'm Brad Davis. I am the host and founder of Success Panda. Welcome, everyone who's watching. Today is actually going to be our third official episode. And today we're talking with scaled customer success. And so we're going to go ahead and invite on today's panel. We have some lovely ladies joining us. We have Dannah and Maria and Colleen joining us today. So, ladies, why don't you give yourselves a 60-second intro of who you are, and then everyone wants to know about you, obviously. So, something you like to do for fun. So, Dannah, you go first.
You got it, Brad. So my name is Dannah Vaughan, and I'm really excited about talking to you today about this topic. Awesome stuff. We're all trying to amplify more with less. I am an adult fan of Legos. Here's an example. Me and my kid did this, which tells you something else about me. I have a couple of kids. They're little girls. They're precious and they're amazing. I have built and scaled success support and services teams now for about 12 years of my life. In ag tech, healthcare, and then, of course, most recently in digital adoption. And, besides that, I like to read in front of a fireplace and relax and all the fun things. And you may have seen it, you may have not. Shameless plug. I have a podcast called Rebels of Sass. I did that because I got laid off last year and that really sucked. And so I had to do something productive. And that's where the podcast came from. So, hey, glad to be here.
Hey, we're all for shameless plugs here. I like it. Great. Thanks for coming. Go ahead, Maria.
Great. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brad, for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. So my name is Maria Roja. I'm based in the beautiful Buenos Aires, Argentina, so a little bit far from everyone. So I'm a manager of customer success and a scale business on a SaaS company. And I've been in a client-facing position for the last, I think, 17, 18 years of my life. So working retail, business intelligence, and now SaaS. And what I like to do, Buenos Aires is a big city, a very crowded city, a very busy city. So every time that I go outdoors is beautiful. So anything outdoors, and I work remotely. So outdoors, air, sun, I really enjoy it.
Nice. So anything outdoors, like doing construction work outdoors?
It can be. I can try.
Okay, all right. Now, which, vamos Messi. Let's go. All right. I actually saw Messi play when he came to. We have an MLS soccer team here, and so that was one of the heights of my summer. So
very Messi.
Yeah, I mean, we're the same age. I mean, who wouldn't have guessed? But I won't. That. Awesome. Thanks, Maria. Go ahead, Colleen.
That's awesome. Hey, everybody. Colleen Perry coming to you guys from Tampa, Florida. I'm manager of scaled customer success here at Bridge, an LMS, leading LMS here in the tech space. For any of you that might be on who know me, I consider myself a dinosaur in customer success years because I've been doing it since before that's what it was coined, and been doing the whole scaled thing for about 3 years now. And I'm just so excited to be here and chat and just continue to learn because it's just constantly evolving. And so ideating together and sharing ideas is absolutely one of my favorite things. So very excited about that. What do I like to do for fun? Much like Dannah, right now I am all in on my daughter's sports. She's basically lives and breathes volleyball and softball. So we're typically at one of those. And if I'm not, then you can try to find me at the beach or the pool, or probably at this point resting on the couch because I've been out watching sporting. So, but that's it. But also just anything outdoors that we can in beautiful weather out here. And we're hoping for that change of weather here soon and moving out of our Jurassic Park era.
Yeah, I feel that. And for those wondering why I have like such a different background, it's because I'm actually in Florida right now on vacation. Still making this happen here. Not my usual Success Panda cave where you see my typical background. But Florida is nice, wonderful people, very interesting experience driving around though. my Midwest driving is meshing in as much as I possibly can. So cool. Well, thanks, ladies. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with actually just this first question of, it has here, how does your company run a scaled CS program? But can you just tell me, what size is your company, right? And like, what does scaled CS mean in your world? Because let's try to get some definitions of like what we're talking about from each of your perspectives when we're talking about this.
Yeah, so I can hop in. I can say in my existing role at Acti, what we are doing right now is really more of a high touch sort of modality, right? I think that as we grow and continue to scale, certainly we're going to want to push to do that. But historically, I've ran digital programs for up to 1,500 customers that would need to be touched. So that gives you a little bit of an idea in terms of like a resource to customer count, Brad.
Awesome. Maria, how about you?
So where I work at PagerDuty as a SaaS company, we manage with a team around 15,000 customers. So we are a big company. So we are very, very happy to have a digital engagement team. We have operations team. We have enablement team. So we have a big team that is supporting all the scale businesses. So just I wanted to mention that the scale, it should be like a shortcut to trust. And in PagerDuty, we scale to keep building partnership with the company, with the client. So it's a great challenge, and I love it.
Cool.
So here at GetBridge, we're a pretty small company. We've got about 700 customers, and we're actually part of a larger holding organization. So I actually sit over 2 different products and brands. And I just call that out here specifically because I was originally hired to lead the scaled for one of our other brands, which is a performance management system. And we did it basically, I inherited it as a segment, which, is a taboo phrase that we talk about a lot, is scaled, but as a segment, and was really like, how do we even do this? We just need to give our customers love, because they weren't even getting that. They were just getting support. So it was a lot of trial and error. But now what we're doing here at Bridge is sort of taking that foundation, but doing it as an entire motion for pretty much 95% of our customer base. And what we've recently done, which I think is pretty interesting, is taken books of business completely away from customer success, move that all to account management, and are focusing on customer success team as the scaled education drivers, and creating opportunities for us in one-to-one as well as one-to-many touch points to be able to help our customers, and then obviously focus our one-to-one attention with those customers as needed, instead of more of a traditional, cadence that wasn't necessarily yielding a lot of value.
Interesting. Yeah. So it sounds a little different, right? Which I think is one of the points to drive home, is a lot of people that watch this show or watch this later on YouTube. I think it's good to just point out that scaled CS is going to look and feel different at each company, right? I think the scaled adjective is perhaps the single common denominator, but there's a lot of variation depending on that. So just real quick, what type of resources does your scaled team? Is it usually bigger or smaller than the traditional CS team? So at your company, is there more headcount in, we'll just say, the non-scaled team, or do you have separated non-scaled teams versus, scaled teams? How's that separated out? Because people ask me all the time, do I need to get and spoiler, I've worked in digital customer success or scaled before, been a scaled lead, but asking the questions here. But can someone who has no scaled success, like, what are they looking at in terms of team size and in terms of trying to break into like a scaled CS position? That was a badly formulated question, but all you ladies are really smart, so I know you can piece it together.
I will say this because I think it's a really cool question. So let me start there. And I like where you're going. I will say that, and I would position that the skill set is a little bit different. So when I'm going to hire for someone who is going to be making all the magic happen in digital CS or the traditional, we used to call it SMB when I first came into customer success. That probably tells you all a little bit about my age here, but nonetheless,
It absolutely.
yes. Okay, Brad. Well, I know you won't. I know you won't judge me. And if you do, go drink some more butterbeer. Brad's been at Universal and Harry Potter, guys and girls. Anyway, all of that being said, it's a different skill set. Negotiation, commercialization, having real ability to create fundamental relationships in a high touch scenario. It's a little bit different model. I think you need to have someone who understands how to make the sausage a little bit to be really great at elevating and moving at the tactical piece from a CS skill win. So that's my thought there.
Nice.
Yeah. And yeah, I love the question. So in my case, we have like a different segmentation for the scale business because, as I mentioned before, we are a big company, so we need that. And we have, yes, it's a similar headcount, but we have a little small operations team, enablement team, and also we are a bigger CSM team. We're all dedicated to scale.
Nice.
Yeah. I'll just echo a little bit of what Dannah said. I think if I were hiring somebody specifically now, it would be, I'm finding it sometimes hard taking an existing Strat CSM and converting them to more of a scaled, not because they're not capable, but it's such a mind change, right? And they're all rising to the challenge, don't get me wrong. But there's someone who, I feel like there is a little bit of like tactical agility that has to happen. And obviously, marketing experience, knowledge, like any of that is going to be key because we have to work such hand in hand. But specifically in our org, all of our customers, their main point of contact now is split between around 3 to 4 account managers, and our scaled folks are not taking on any books of business, but we still interact with those customers. We're actually just about to launch a case management system so that AMs can actually request our services, so that we're still going to drive that product adoption and that value, but just really trying to focus on doing it very strategically where it's needed versus just canvassing a broad net and hoping something sticks.
Interesting. Okay. So tell me a little bit about building, because everyone kind of talked about relationships in their response. How do you build a relationship with customers at a scaled, in a scaled response? Because I think to Dannah's point, that's I think a little bit of how the sausage is made. And then we want to get into who owns kind of the messaging to the customer, because this is always an interesting perspective to share, because you got marketing and you got all this, all these people who are potentially messaging customers, and then we'll talk about customer journeys too. But let's just start with like, how do we build relationships just primarily digitally? I mean, what seemed to work, or what's a good idea?
So a couple of good ideas. I think community is probably top of mind, right? Circle AI is a great solution. It's inexpensive. It's a cool way to get people involved. I know many of the people here on the phone are familiar with some really cool people, including Brad, that have built some awesome communities and success. And I think that's a really great way to kind of bridge that. And then the other thing is, and I know we're not going to get into this right this second, but going into like an ever after platform or something like that to have a walkthrough kind of customer journey experience is a super cool way to do that. So I'd offer that.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with Dannah that for me, community is great to scale. And also I will add content. I think that more and more the CS team, we are becoming a content creator because we have gold in our hands. So if you fully understand our customer goals and how they're using your product, you have all that information, right? So not only creating content, but also if you can automate some of those processes, you can grow and scaling your business.
So I would say a few things to, just to add my own twist, which would be, in our case, it's a little bit different because a lot of us did have relationships established with these customers. So that exists in our ecosystem, which helps, right? Because even though they're working with one and many people, we're all familiar names and faces. So that is probably an advantage. The biggest thing that we're working on going forward is with a net new customer who's coming in, is just setting up all of our documentation and getting everybody from pre-sale all the way through implementation to speak the right language, to say you're being supported by a team. Because traditionally, right, our customers, who's my account rep? They don't really care if it's a CSM or an account manager or a salesperson. They don't care. They just want to know that they've got a friend to call when they need someone. So, excuse me. So our biggest challenge right now is just making sure, again, that all of our folks in pre-sale and whatnot are actually talking that language to explain how they're going to be supported by a team, all of the different avenues, which is community, office hours, customer-led webinars, team-led webinars. We're doing some going to be starting to look to do some virtual meetups, but also doing some on some targeted local events to help bring in small user groups, if you will. And then also with our education segment right now, we're really focusing on some smaller water cooler talks. So really just trying to bring those instances together where those relationships happen. They just look a little bit different from maybe one-to-one and a consistent one-to-one.
Yeah, I really like that. So to follow up on what you just said, Colleen, the whole one-to-many, which is the whole kind of point, right, of scaled CS, is you have one employee, one CSM, one person who is trying to reach, like Maria said, sometimes thousands, of potential customers, which is a lot. And that obviously depends from company to company. But do you feel like creating content, that's not exactly everyone's jam? Like if you're a CSM, or hosting webinars is, I think, a little bit different than, having a quarterly business review or just jumping on a call with someone. What do you think is the difference between, say, those two different positions? Because I think that they might be different, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say the biggest element of it goes back to that, and we're talking a lot about that, I think, in the community right now. The whole difference, it is sort of that intersection of human and AI, machine and person. I would argue, especially to take it back to a physical example and health model, I've had a lot of people say, oh, well, sentiment maybe matters, it maybe doesn't in health. I would argue for the larger customers, especially, that you really particularly want to focus on to protect hardy ARR. That human gut feeling is that thing that is hard to really describe, but it's the thing. It's there. It's real. It's living and breathing versus the digital machine AI.
Yeah. You can use everything like AI to help you build that, but and this is great. I use it all the time. But that that information is key, as I mentioned before. So you have gold there, and when you scale and when you automate those emails, you don't have to have, hey, Dannah, or hey, Colleen, this is me. You really need to add value to that email. So it's not easy. I'm not saying that easy, but you have that information there, identify your customer journey, the use case. But when you have that email, that process that is working, it's great. But you have to get there.
Yeah, I would say that so a lot of our stuff, especially on the performance management side, is very cyclical. So our customers aren't requiring our attention on an everyday cadence, whereas I come typically from recruiting technology, which is pretty much 24/7, maybe bars weekends. So because of some of our peaks and valleys, it also helps us to be able to focus our attention with our customers a little bit differently. And while we do a lot of the automated emails and things that are going out in blast, that's really our next area of focus. Is now that we've kind of got that going, how do we fine tune it make sure that it is value packed? And how do we still keep our spidey sense, as you were talking about, Dannah, like on our customer radar? And that's one of the things that I've been trying to wrap my brain around over the last few years, really, is how do we bring those both together? And I don't know that there's always a one size fits all, but using any of the tools, we're a big Gainsight user here. So making sure everybody's putting in the right notes, sharing that data, that new cheat sheet really helps bring it. If someone has to swoop in and get a good roll up of information, I mean, their feature of AI is great there. But there's still, that is like the biggest part I'm tempering, is like, we still need that human intervention, because there is some level of, this might look right on paper, but I know it's not right. Usage in this case doesn't equal value. What's going on? And we still need somebody to be checking in on that. And so, not to totally dismiss what you said either, Brad, is that it's not the same people, in my opinion, that write content as good as people who might lead a webinar, as good as people who can build that relationship. And as we've been changing and putting people in roles that they didn't necessarily sign up for, because as I mentioned, we just switched kind of everything around. It's really kind of playing with that and understanding who wants to do what, and then coaching them through a lot of it and making sure everybody is doing their part in leveling up, whether that's a training, networking, asking what other people are doing and learning, because everybody's constantly evolving in that. One thing I'll say specifically about our team is we've gone through a series of layoffs. We've shrunk our team so much. Those of us who are left are really open to being agile. And I think that makes a world of difference. So someone could be like, I'm not that great at content, but I can at least get something started. And then we can bring in our partners in marketing or another peer that can help kind of put that bow on it and then get it out the door.
Since you brought it up, let's go there with the customer success platforms, right? You mentioned Gainsight. I was a sponsor at Gainsight, and I got to go to one of the dinners there that they host for different groups of people, and I was sitting with a bunch of chief customer officers, and we actually were talking about digital customer success. And I asked them, I was like, so how is this going? How is your scaled CS programs going? And they said that pretty much all of them said it was going okay. The biggest challenge is kind of, one, what platform are you on? Like, are you using a platform? And then how do you collaborate with the other departments? So like product and marketing. So I've used Gainsight before, Journey Orchestrator. I'm familiar with it, right? Which is one of their platforms. So that's a nice platform. And no, this isn't sponsored by Gainsight. I wish it was, but shout out Kevin, get me a hookup. But anyways, so that's the question I'm going to say is, do you guys use a platform for your scaled CS? If so, like, do you want to talk about which one? And then if you don't use a platform, tell me just about your like customer journey, or what are some of the assets that you use along the way in order to help manage your scaled CS?
Yeah, so I will tell you that Gainsight is my platform of choice. I have absolutely no shame in sharing that with you all. I love Gainsight for all the reasons. But however, I have been converted a little bit by the RevOps genius that is at Apti now, Tyler Ellis. So he has been building some pretty cool stuff inside of HubSpot. And so interestingly enough, I would say that I think that from an ancillary standpoint, a couple of really cool tools that I have either shopped or used in programs are Ensure Ever After for customer journey, one-stop shop to take a customer through and kind of mimic that hands-on experience, helpful in onboarding, document repository, all the fun stuff. And then I'll have to do a little shout out to the AI chat bots. I think they're super important in support. So Sienna AI. That's right, Chad. I said Sienna if you hear this. But anyway, all of that being said, it is a really great tool, and does some things that are important, like these tools are so smart that they do a really crucial thing. And you mentioned it, Brad, bridging back to other departments. I think CS having a pulse on the customers that we touch less is super, super important. And being able to find keywords through AI inside of some of these workbots when support tickets come in and generating that over really quickly to CS to flag it to that CSM or to that leader. I think that's really important for damage control. So those are a couple that I would know. And Chatty, I actually looked at for a survey. It's called Chatty Insights. Really cool survey, like this conversational AI thing. That was super neat. Fairly early company, but very innovative. It offers a really personal experience for feedback and surveys.
Good. Thanks for sharing.
I know that this is not sponsored, Brad, but I also use Gainsight, and I love it.
We need to get it sponsored, Maria. That's the thing.
Yeah, somebody is in the chat in the audience from Gainsight.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Someone ping Nick and then tell him that
Gainsight. You need to sponsor Success Panda.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, Gainsight is great. Also, I use Hotspot in the past. I really like it as well. And to add some great tools that the great thing now that is small companies, they have a lot of tools to start scaling their team. So that is great that they have access to all these tools. Another tool that I really, really like for automation processes is Zapier. So sometimes I use that as well. And Notion for to build processes and playbook. I not only use it in a professional side, but also in the personal life. So I love Notion as well.
Cool. Everyone does. Notion. So hot right now. To quote Zoolander. Okay. Sorry. I have to
so as I mentioned, we're a Gainsight shop as well. I've used Tango in the past, thought it was, worthwhile as well, but very partial to Gainsight. But probably because it's just the one that I've touched the most, right? So I can admit some probably personal bias there, but definitely using that as well as paired with Salesforce, especially now with our new case management to help get to see what all we're touching and be able to track our outputs to our outcomes. Looking at Gainsight PX, we don't have a great ability right now to track our product usage and bring the insights. It's a very laborious manual process for anybody in our business. So it's a big business challenge we're looking to solve and hoping to implement. And so we're using Panda right now, but it's really owned obviously by product and marketing. So we do some CS stuff in there, but not having it connected and having any level of automation is a little bit of a challenge for us, right? So we just use it more so to just communicate some announcements and whatnot, CS related. So I would call us very infancy in our tech as it relates to scaling.
It's interesting that, so let's just say I was from sales, Dannah's from CS, Maria's from marketing, and then Colleen is from product. If like,
CS.
Okay, so yeah, let's just say we're all from different and we're in the same company. Okay, and let's just say we're all sitting in the meeting with the CEO, the C-suite, and they just say, okay, guys, who owns the customer relationship? And then we all in unison say, I do. It's like, that's one of the big challenges with that I've experienced before, and these different conversations that I've had in the past on Scaled CS, because this is not our first Scaled CS call. I remember Alex, who runs the Digital Customer Success podcast, was on some time ago, and I asked this question to them because I'm always curious, like, how do we prevent, us from getting down our track, where they're going through our playbooks and they're going through our, our workflow, and then we're messaging them, and then they're like, hey guys, why are you spamming me? I'm getting an email from you twice a day, every week. And then that's just ruining their customer experience. It's creating a bad peak. So is this something that you've had to, like, is the Scaled CS in collaboration with sales and with other people? And how do we prevent oversaturating or kind of making the experience a negative experience based off our other colleagues who are just trying to help out as well?
Yeah, I think that whether it's digital or high touch, what I've found to always be kind of a truth is listen to the customer, right? And we're always going to learn. I try to coach that way and lead that way. And I think that part of listening is just like you said, Brad, there's always going to be a, hey, it's too much. I mean, and I'm going to be honest, right? I'm a really big proponent of the fact people hate surveys, right? They just do. And so, being able to tailor that in such a way, I think is crucial because if you have an aggravated customer, then that's going to decrease engagement. So I just think it's about really listening to the customer. And in the digital world, that means having a really real good idea of how to measure health. And making sure that's integrated into, the flavor, whether it's the game site we all love or whatever dashboard we love. But I think that's super important to notice those red flags early and adjust accordingly.
Nice. What about you, Maria?
Yeah, I think that question is great, and I think that we can spend a lot of time talking about how we enable that for clients and cross collaboration as well. So I think that we need to work all together. I know that is very common to say, but we all work together for the same goal: sales, marketing, product, support as well. We all part of the same customer experience. So and I agree with Dannah that metrics is key for us to fully understand how the customer is using our product, and also to have that internal alignment. And those alignments are also related with that action plan that we put together for the same customer. So yeah, it's a mix of having, if you have those metrics available, and have a great internal communication with all the teams, especially if you have a lot of teams involved with the same customer.
What happens if they don't listen, Maria?
Oh, you have those issues with the customer. I think if you don't have that alignment with your sales counterpart, or with support, or with marketing, the client, they will have an awful client experience. So we are not looking for that.
Yeah, no. Of course that never happens in real life. This is all theoretical, of course. Go ahead, Colleen.
That's awesome. We're in the thick of that right now, honestly. It's just because we have experienced so much change repetitively, quite honestly, since I've been here in 2 years of between just layoffs and shifting of who owns what. And I think we're finally getting to a place where we're doing a really good job. Brad, you make the mention about emails and oversaturation, and we're working with our partners in marketing and sales and putting together, a really simple, it's not simple, it's complex, but simple to see calendar, who's going, what's going out on what day, making sure that they're all in line. Because that's our next challenge, right? The first was we have nothing going out on any regular cadence. Now it's getting it in an organized cadence. The next level that we're trying to focus on is assimilating all of our data. What's all the signals that's coming in from our customers telling us, right? And then making sure that whether we've got a sales motion that we're working on, that CS comms can also complement that in some way, or if there's a constant challenge that we're hearing from our customers about a product feature and we need to send out more communication, making sure that in unison, all the teams are doing the same level of effort, or their part, if you will, to make sure that we're all addressing it and reaching the customer. So if that's a comm, a webinar, a help session, that we're doing it all in tandem, so that we are, even though we kind of have our own swim lanes, we all obviously want to be swimming in the same direction, because there is definitely a little bit of everybody sort of pinging around. And so getting that collaboration together is terribly important.
Have all three of you heard of like a CCO, or whoever the leader is of CS gets veto power over a deal? Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Like if there's a poorly signed deal, bad customer fit, supposedly there are these companies that have chief customer officers that are allowed to veto that deal and kind of turn that away. But or I don't know if turn them away, they just try to refit it, I suppose. But under these circumstances where you have these customer journeys sometimes where this is a ubiquitous problem with different organizations, is that people come in and they think they're going to have, maybe they don't know the customer journey, like in the sales process. So the question is, do you know if your sales teams like talk about the customer journey before they're actually sold? Because this was like something I was always trying to like preach and get people to do. Because I would sit in these sales calls when people are trying to sell me stuff, like at SaaS companies, and I would sit there, and because I'm coming from a CS worldview, you know, that's where I sit. I'm sitting there and I'm like, there's not one slide in their pitch deck that talks about like what their service is to be expected of after I buy this thing. And then when I like call it out, they're like, do you have any questions? I'm like, where's your slide of, you know, how you guys are going to treat me after I buy this thing? There's always like an awkward 2 or 3 second pause before they're like, basically say, oh, I didn't think you'd want to see that. It's like trying to not see 95% of the relationship for the next year, right? So I'm just curious, like, do your companies or do your sales teams, is the customer journey like this digital customer success journey or this scaled customer success, is that expectation set up front? Do customers know about it? Do they know what they're going to get? Do they have options for the different channels that you can deliver in? Take that any way you want. I mean, you can talk about your channels or the ways that you touch customers in that way, but yeah, I'm always interested in to see how other companies do it, because I think it's quite different.
Well, you know, Brad, sales always sets excellent expectations for you know that. No, I want to be clear. This is how I feel about it, right? So, like, yes, at the current company that I'm in, yes, they do, and I will go further to say that during cross-sell and upsell of existing logos, we've got an awesome account manager, director of account manager. His name is Colleen. And he is very good at not just selling the customer experience, but also the, for lack of a better way to put it, for customer success in general. This is what you can expect and all of these things. I think that it works good when it works good, but it's interesting you bring this up, because if that isn't done, it goes really bad really quickly. So it's really fun to ponder this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my case, the answer is yes as well, but I'm not saying it's easy. So yes, in the most cases, but now what is going on is that we have a lot of facing a lot of churn. So we are doing a lot of churn mitigation. So and the good thing is that we are aligned with the sales team with those metrics, with those KPIs. So we both have churn and downgrade as a key metric. So now we are working together, and it's great when you are able to work together with the sales team. And that happens both on the high touch, low touch, and scale business. But it can be tricky. And as Dannah mentioned and Colleen, if that doesn't happen, it will be bad.
Yeah, this reminds me of a session you had probably about a month or so ago, Brad, where we were talking a little bit about like shared goals, right? Revenue goals and KPIs and commissions and whatnot. And so not to circle back completely to that, but I definitely am seeing a shift now that we're kind of all sharing. We're not totally sharing, but that there was more alignment and awareness, and that we take a little bit of that off the plate, which I think alleviates some pressure. But to be more specific with my answer with you, I would say that is a huge work in progress for us, is to get that upfront in the sales process. As we have some people shifting around, I think we're getting some of the right people in the right seats to help drive that more and more. And to my partners in sales, the change has been constant for them. So if they're not constantly getting coached and enabled, they're not going to be the best well prepared either. So I certainly don't want to, put them specifically at my team in a bad light, because they're learning as we go. One of the things, though, that I want to say that we did in our last motion with the performance management side is we got really better at letting them know in the sales process. And if they didn't know in the sales process, or my partners and PS would tell them at the time of kickoff. That here's what you can expect. You're not going to get a dedicated rep. You have a whole team. This is the various ways in which they support you. I would come in at the end. And it's always kind of sensitive because then if they see my face, they're like, oh, you're my rep. And we're like, but not really. I mean, I'm one of them, right? And so just constantly reinforcing that. But one of the things that we did is we would tell them, you're going to get a series of emails from us over your first 120 days as you go live. They are automated, but we're here and we're going to check in with you. And these are going to be the ways. So again, just kind of bringing back that human element of a lot of this is going to feel self-driving, but we're here. And our customers, what I'm finding is as long as they have those expectations up front and then they know how to get an actual human if they need them, they're actually more like, hey, good, don't call me, I'll call you, because otherwise they're inundated. They're probably in lean organizations too. They're probably have constant divided attention. For most customers, it's kind of been like a weight off their back. And we even had one customer that really resisted it. And as she learned to trust and that we always resolved her issues and we were there, she's actually done a complete 180 and is like, love this model. Like, thank you. So just constant communication and expectation setting has got to be there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So we had a message here from William. He said, I have always spoken with other departments that have touch points and express the need to derive and extract feedback at every touch point. It's important to obtain info at every possible point. So I agree, William. I think to go along with that, some of the touch points is I think that, so for people that have listened to me before, there's always certain things I bring up almost every call because they freaking work. But besides that, one thing that I particularly like to do is just, I like to be curious and not just accept the way how things have always been done and question maybe what has never been like up for question. And what I mean by that is, my very first CS position, I was at a small startup company and we actually had compensation. Our compensation model for our commissions were split between myself and the sales director. And so in that company, when a new logo was sold, the pot of money that was going towards a commission, like 70% went to him and 30% went to me for doing great service, the first year. And on renewal, 70% of that pot of, that renewal commission went to me, and then the 30% went to him. So I can tell you that we never once had any disagreements about like messaging, who is doing what. I'm going on vacation, I will cover for you. Like there was complete alignment because the dollars also aligned. And so I feel like a lot of times, and this is one of the, when I coach and mentor people, I tell people, if you're going to go work for a smaller company, especially if it's at like a startup where you can have major influence or you're the first CS hire, things like that. Like I call those greenfield projects because it's a greenfield. There's nothing built. There's just, you can make it how you want. You can try new things, right? There's not a sales team that's been, there for 25 years. And then there's a very rigid way of how things are structured, right? And no one can ever, not only can you not change the commission structure, but it's not to be questioned. And I think there's certain kind of, things that are not to be questioned in organizations. And I think that's a disservice because if you want people to, especially if you want two departments to really get together, like how can we make this so they're aligned around compensation? And so that's going to be that's the next question I want to ask is like, how are digital CSMs or how are your scaled people, how are they compensated? Do they have a variable component in their job, or is there any sort of shared compensation between like sales and CS, or what are the metrics there in between those?
Yeah, so existing, Brad, no, because we're not at that stage of maturation, right?
Right.
Historically, I totally agree with you. Co-alignment is great. It prevents that whole going bad thing that I was talking about. When it's bad, and then prevents the whole pointy finger thing when things go exceptionally bad, because everybody's got a buy-in. I really have found a lot of success, exactly as you would say, in that shared kind of co-alignment.
Nice.
And before I answer your question, Brad, I want to mention that one thing that I love working in scale is that and my management also allowed me to test, right? To do A/B testing, to try different things. And our ultimate goal is to have that value, to drive that value with the customer. So one thing that I want to mention about working in scale is that you can try a lot of things. To get that thing done. And regarding your question, yes, we have commission, but all together on the scale business. So all the CS team, we have the same goal, and we are compensated on that goal.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, we're the same. We're compensated as a whole. And so, which has been a shift because that was not what it was a year ago. It was obviously more book of business based. For each individual. I will say that having the account managers in charge as the owners has probably shifted some of that pre-sale conversation, right, Brad? Like they've got a different perspective now that it comes back to them, full stop, and that we're just here to support them. So I do think that we'll see some good change there. I don't know if they'll quite be veto power, but I think we have, as a business, could get a lot better at just setting those expectations and qualifying some of that with our customers better so that we are in line with that, to make sure that they're a good fit and that they understand how they're going to be supported and whatnot. So that's kind of just the evolution that we're experiencing right now.
Gotcha. So let's wrap up with one final question, which I'm interested to hear your opinion about. We always have a lot of job seekers, people that are looking to find their next role, that are watch these shows, and so perhaps each of you could share what is something that like you look for if you were hiring, if you're theoretically hiring like another scaled or digital CSM right now. What's the one or two things that can really wow you if a candidate comes in? Like what type of experience, or what's the skill set, or what can people really shoot for if they wanted to get into that space?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I would share is no matter where you are in your career, I think building your brand is something that's super exciting and important, especially in our community, with meaningful and engaging content. And I think that the great thing about customer success is, we're in a community where everybody's like, yeah, sure, come on in. It's not a community that says, we don't need someone else sharing thoughts. That's not it at all. It's more of what Colleen was saying at the beginning of this combo, hey, let's all share 98. And so that, and then the other piece I would say would be be your genuine self during the interview process. I've been there where you're looking for something, it's scary. I promise you, I want everybody listening to understand it is hard in success right now, and it is scary, but you will find work. So just know you need to be yourself, because wherever you land, you want to be happy there too.
Amen. Maria.
Yeah. One thing that I want to mention, I think that if you're looking for scaling your business, is your company is scaling your business, it's great because we are open to a lot of new type of roles, right? So it's not only the traditional CS role, but you can have, as we mentioned before, community managers, CS. You can have content creator, you can have program managers, you can have data analysts, a lot of type of new roles that maybe you can fix what or fit what you're looking for. One thing that I want to mention, and not what Dannah said, is maybe to prioritization, I think, or be strategic with your book of business. I don't know if it's the right skill, but I'm looking for that.
Yeah. So you're saying, Maria, that I shouldn't spend 1 week on the lowest paying customer of $5,000 a year? Is that Did I get that right?
You can have digital engagement.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Cool.
Just to echo, I've got a lot of folks that come to me they want to break in to see us and they haven't yet. And sometimes the conversation is, I've never done it before. And I'm like, but you probably have. You just need to really get familiar with a lot of the vernacular. There's a lot of great people, as Dannah mentioned, in our community. I truly believe we have one of the best communities of people who say yes far more than we say no and want to genuinely help each other. I think it's something with the personality type that we all have, and some Venn diagram of lots of different, character traits. But think about getting familiar with the vernacular, the things that we're using, things that we're saying, which are constantly evolving, and then share how those skills have translated to you in your other careers, because it's there. And a lot of it is being able to connect with people, to understand what problems they have, what problems they're trying to solve, and then us going back internally and being the conduit of that information to kind of orchestrate a symphony of people to help solve that problem. We don't have to be the person that carries it all on our back. We just have to be really good at listening, being curious, and then bringing that information back. And so I would say someone's interviewing, try to do just that in your interview. Try to explain how you're doing that, because a lot of the other things can be taught. A lot of that can't be, right? That's a lot of innateness that I think is one of those character types that a lot of us tend to have.
Yeah, no, that was all great. And I think for me, if I was looking to hire like a scaled or digital CSM, the number one thing I always look for is just curiosity, because your tech stack is constantly changing. So you have to be able to think about kind of like going to Dannah's, you got these Legos, right? You have these desperate pieces, and what can you take from your tech stack? Because, oh, look, is that a shark?
It is a shark. It totally is.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Nice. Nice. Kids were excited. They saw an alligator, so they were just like, that checked it off their list. And like, okay, we can go home now. But yeah, so just being able to stay curious, because if you have basically all these Lego pieces and you're not going to have any purchasing power, you're not going to be buying the assets, right? That's people above you are doing that. But I liked how Maria brought up, Zapier, and just being able to, how do I automate these things together? How do I stay curious? How do I continue to look at this tech stack and put it in a way that I can reach, and bring value to customers? And I think creativity is hard, because I think when we're going through an interview process, we're not sure if they're going to like our response, right? Hey, this is something creative I tried, and maybe you think Maria's that's the dumbest thing I've heard all day. I would never do that. But, for me, I think that it's super important, because businesses are ever changing, and the tech stacks are changing. We move on and off vendors all the time. And so do you know enough about technology? Do you know enough about staying curious in order to build something within a customer journey that can continue to serve and deliver to your customers? So, all right, ladies, where can people find and connect with you, find out more about you, and connect with you? You want to give us a quick rundown, and then we'll sign off?
Yeah, mine's easy. Hit me up on LinkedIn.
Yeah, same LinkedIn.
Yes. Yep. Same.
Okay, awesome. Dannah, I was disappointed because I thought you were going to pitch your podcast again.
I was going to say, I just got one released last week, my first one ever, and it was the most fun. So you can find a link to that on my page as well.
Nice.
Run to Colleen's page and do that. Run.
Yeah.
And then you can crawl and check out Rebels of SaaS podcast.
That's on my list of things.
Yeah, I need to do that as well.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, ladies, you're the reason why customer success community is so vibrant. You're wonderful for coming on the show, taking some time to share your thoughts. It's indicative of, like I said, the community, people helping people. And I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Yes.
So
you too.
Enjoy your vacation, what's left of it.
Yes.
I will. go jump in the pool here in a second. All
Nice.
right.
Good call.
Bye, ladies. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.